our discussion here, and we want to start back around 1975. Where were you then? Are you pressed record?
In 75, I had come back from Stony Brook in New York, where I'd been for 2 years working on a degree, and had been singularly unsuccessful in finding work in Bolivar County. I wound up going over to Washington County with Jimmy Thornton and the Head Start Project, and was hired there to do the Director of Social Services, which meant, of course, going out in the community, helping to inform the people about the existence of the program, the services provided by the program, and helping to recruit interest and commitment of parents to enroll their children in the program.
The Head Start program.
And the Head Start, Washington County Opportunities, Inc. That's right.
And you stayed there how long?
I stayed there about a year.
And you left and went where?
I left and went to the University of Mississippi Law School.
Okay.
I had long been admiring of all of the lawyers, the civil rights people that brought into the community, Marion Wright Edelman and all of the rest of the people, and I thought maybe my calling in life was to be a lawyer.
You went to Ole Miss?
I went to Ole Miss Law School. I spent a year there. It was less than glamorous performance in terms of my concern. My marriage to my children's father, which had been a rocky affair for the last few years, finally came to a screaming, screeching halt, as they say in literature. And I had to make a decision after we decided to go our separate ways and get a divorce about what was the most important thing for me to do, to finish getting my kids out of school and educated, or to pursue my dream of becoming a lawyer, fighting for freedom in the courtroom. And I really worn out to having to go get a job and take care of the kids.
Right.
I really needed to put some distance between me and their father, so we moved to Jackson, I went to work in 1975 with the prison project at the lawyers.
Bought that old house. Remember that house?
Yes, I did. We got there a couple of years later. Cause we rented from we rented from Voice of Calvary, and had a great time cooking out in the backyards on a hibachi because we didn't have a stove. God, where's my hibachi? But anyway, the kids made a pretty good transition to Jackson. Cynthia was already beginning her second year at Tougaloo College.
All your kids went to Tougaloo.
That's right. Well, we had a couple Jackson State defectors, but
You did? I didn't know that.
Michael went first to Tougaloo, and he said everywhere he went, everybody said, "Oh, you mean you one of them Dorsey kids? Well, I know you can do better than this." So he finally got away from Tougaloo where he could and went to Jackson State.
All right.
Chip, of course, went to the military right out of high school, so he went to Jackson State too for a year, and then went on into the Air Force. Then
at some point, you became the associate director of the Delta Ministry and the head of the Southern Coalition in Jails and Prisons project.
Yes, that's right. That's when the Delta Ministry was able to have an office in Greenville and in Greenwood, and after the prison project had taken on a new director, and the director and I were not really philosophically at the same place about how the project should be run, and it was decided that he would run it and I would go and do something else. So I became the associate director of the Delta Ministry with an office in Green and Jackson, and reported to the office in Greenwood, and we continued to do prison ministry through the National Council of Churches sponsorship.
Right.
We did that until I decided, until we was unable to raise money. That was one of the things that became a big problem. We were unable to raise money to continue the prison ministry and support two offices of it. We had support from Joe Ingles and the Southern Coalition on Jails and Prisons.
Ingles. Yeah, that's who that was.
That's right. That's the only reason we was able to have the two offices, because money support for what we were doing, which had started with the broad-based civil rights struggle.
Now that was a regional program, Southern Coalition on Jails and Prisons. 8
states in the southeastern United States of America, and the headquarters was in Nashville, where Joe lived, and I think really he was one of the better bosses we ever had. That guy was really amazing. He understood how stressful the work was, and was the first person that I ever heard who was recommending that we take 4-day weekends. Not that we ever did. We were such nuts about what we were doing and how we were changing the world.
That was a revolutionary concept.
Very revolutionary concept. Very revolutionary concept.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he will tell people today that he's the only boss who's ever offered that to the folks and never got anybody to take him up on it.
Now, the Southern Coalition, you recruited me. As I recruited you for the associate directorship of the ministry, you recruited me to help you out with the program of the Southern Coalition, or I asked if I could come along with you.
We recruited you. We really recruited you because you were the church, and I was strongly supported throughout the country and throughout the states that we were working in were churches.
Okay.
And representing the National Council of Churches, I thought you brought with it the possibility of expanding the lay membership in our philosophy, because we really needed to be able to have judges think about what we were trying to do. We needed to have legislators think about what we were trying to do. And you represented our greatest opportunity to do that through the National Council of Churches.
Okay. So I personally got involved.
Yes, you did.
In the program of the Southern Coalition and accompanied you in your visitations to Parchment Penitentiary.
Exactly.
For a period of time.
Very long period of time.
Right?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
and we did that for a while until there was an interruption when I took a sabbatical in 1980, 81, and you became you took over the directorship of the ministry for the time that I was on sabbatical. You remember that?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Glorious time.
Okay.
Did a lot of time and made a lot of friends in Greenville, Mississippi, because basically that's where I had to come to be able to direct the program. Created a great big stir when I decided that one of the people who had been on your payroll had to actually do some work that we could record and turn in, and proceeded to fire him when he refused to do so.
Dare I ask who that was?
Yeah, you know who it is. You just stop and think about it. We fought about it, but later on, he came back and realized that the position I took was one that he supported as well. So we became friends.
Now, all right. Okay. Now we had Robert Young.
Yes.
Yes.
That's who the person was.
That's who that was.
Yeah.
And then by 1979, we brought aboard, we first brought Eddie Williams, and then we brought, we brought Fred Williams out of Mace. We liberated him from Mace, right? And we brought on Eddie Williams later on, also from Mace, right? You were there when all that happened.
I wasn't there when Fred was there. I think I was still in Jackson, or
you might have been still in Jackson.
Or I was in New York. I don't know, one of the places. But
all right.
I was there when Eddie was on board.
When Eddie was on board? And then you were there when we brought Minister Farrakhan to tour Mississippi.
That's right. I was running that little place down there on Ferris Street.
Where is
I'm
that
not
right?
Hamilton. I had moved into
the office, right. The old land fund office.
The old land fund office,
Okay.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, which is still there.
Still there, that's right.
Jeez, well, some things really do survive.
Yes,
don't
they do. Yes, they do.
All right, go ahead, El. So what happened? What do you got next?
Well,
your next step was off to Howard to graduate school.
Off to Howard and graduate school. And that, I think, if my dates are right, that occurred in 88.
Was it as late as that?
No,
No, it was a little
85,
earlier than that.
85.
Yeah. How old were
The
you?
coursework was 2 years, and I was there from 85. I think I didn't come back to Mississippi until 88.
To obtain a PhD. Okay, what you get your PhD in?
Social work.
In social work. Okay, social work. Okay, and I was back in the state by then, 1985.
Well, it really, the coursework was just 2 years, but you had 5 years to finish the project, so I didn't graduate from Howard until 88. So,
Okay.
and part of that time I was back in Jackson. I'm trying to remember if I came back to Jackson and went to Memphis. I remember I went to Memphis.
Well traveled.
I went to Memphis to do the writing. I went from Howard to Memphis to do the writing because I really didn't think I was disciplined enough as to come back to Jackson where all of my
The distraction.
but
And
also
family?
I would be back into trying to be down at the lawyers committee or doing stuff like that, and my family was there, so I went from.
I didn't remember that.
I went to Memphis. Well, I didn't come to Jackson much. I would come. I had a little apartment off Pendleton Street in Memphis.
I
remember
remember
that I rode home on some Fridays with, because you still had to go and meet with your people at Howard. And so I remember riding home a lot of Fridays with the Ford, with Congressman Ford.
Congressman Ford.
Yeah,
Oh
we'd
my
be on
God.
the same plane coming into Memphis.
How long did you stay in Memphis?
I stayed in Memphis 3 years.
3 years?
3 years.
No, hell.
Yes, I did. I was up there.
Go,
3 years.
which years were those?
I think I was there from the fall of 85 until 88, till the summer of 88. And I finished writing. They finally accepted my thing, and I graduated.
I didn't remember that. I don't remember that at all.
Well, I tell you, I'm having a hard time pulling it all back up because I think it was a time when I really was most lonely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was single. The
Yeah.
kids had grown up. Nobody needed me anymore.
That's a hell of a feeling. Yes. I remember that.
Nobody.
That's a tough feeling.
That's a
bad
tough feeling. It's a
Yes.
tough feeling.
All right, so you came back in 88,
Came back in 88.
and which way did you go?
I went to work at the University of Mississippi in their research program over in Goodman, Mississippi. And I remember it was really such a funny interview because people always help folks finish up writing their documents and everything. And when I went for my interview and everything, everybody was sitting around the room that already worked for the project. And
Goodman is in Holmes County.
is in Holmes County, and both of the professors I'm blocking on. They were related to medicine, but it was more of the study of the behavior of people in a medical setting and with medical issues and stuff, rather than being physicians. And we were with the we weren't with the medical center per se. This was under the pharmaceutical sciences umbrella of the thing, and my role in this area was to look at the non-medicine activities and non-medical activities and prescriptions that people adopted as part of their health care practices. That included the use of voodoo, herbs, and other practices that were not standard medical fare. That lasted about a year, and I applied for a position as an administrator of a community health center and was hired, and I went to work. I moved back to Bolivar County and assumed the directorship in 1988.
In 88?
I think in the fall of 1988 of Delta Health Center. And I think that lasted until 88. That doesn't sound right. Or maybe 88 was, when did I go to Howard? Because I left the health center and went to Howard University to work on the, 7 and 9 may have been when I came to the health center and stayed there until.
As a director?
Yes.
It was later than that.
You think it was later than that?
Oh, it's possible.
Okay. Well, I'll have to look at my resume and get the date straight.
Oh,
I know that I went to Howard, I thought, and
where were you when the congressman was elected?
now, are we talking about Benny, or are we talking
No,
about
before. Yeah.
Michael?
Espy.
I think I was here when Michael was here in Jackson when Michael was elected.
Were you involved in that campaign?
Yes, but you know I was out of his district, but yes.
Okay. I was just trying to put the time frames together.
Well, I have all of it on an old resume, exactly what, before I lost my mind, I wrote it all down. So I can get that for you so we can plug
And
in
you
the
served
date.
as the director of the health center for how long?
Well, I thought I was there about 5 or 6 years, and then I went to the university. I came to Jackson State.
Oh, okay. All
That's,
right.
that's what I thought. I went to help them do, remember it was such a stressful thing. We being sued every day. I was going to the court every day.
Mm.
But I really don't think I was there but about, I wasn't there 10
And
years.
they opened up the Greenville Clinic
I opened up the Greenville Clinic. I
when
opened
you
up the
were the
Clarksdale.
director?
I opened up the Clarksdale Clinic.
Okay.
And really much against the opposition of people in the health center and the people in Mount Bayou. I remember all the leaders of Mount Bayou coming to me and saying, everything you have needs to stay here in Mount Bayou.
Needs to what?
Stay in Mount Bayou. We opened up so I may have been there more than 5 years. I've got to figure out these last dates. That's amazing that I can't, because this is 2006.
Right.
And I had 7 years, let's count back then from 2006. I had 7 years at the university, so that gives you back 7 from 16 is 9. So
At Jackson State?
Uh,
You had 7 years? How many years at Jackson State?
no, 4.
4?
They only give me 7 all told, so.
You
so
were at the graduate school?
I was at the graduate school. I helped open the graduate school. Not the graduate school, at the school of social welfare. You know, they had just a
The
just a
Graduate
program.
School of Social Welfare? No?
But it
Oh,
wasn't.
no,
No, it was called the School of
School of
Social.
Social Welfare.
School of Social
Okay.
Welfare.
Yeah,
Social,
all right.
School of Social Work.
Yeah, but you taught in the graduate school.
I taught in the graduate school. You have to have a PhD to teach in graduate school, so after I did that, God, I can't remember that.
That's
So,
all right. Okay.
we'll get all that.
We can't get it chronologically correct, but we know that you went to Jackson State,
Mhm.
to teach.
And I should remember that. So that was most recent.
To teach,
Can't believe this.
all right. In the late
It
'80s?
had to be, no, Jackson State had to be the 90s.
Okay.
Yeah, because we're 2006. So it had to be in mid-90s. Because after Howard was
And you
when I
taught
went to
how
the
long
health
in
center.
Jackson State?
From Howard, I went to the health center.
Yeah, we got that.
Okay.
We're all right with that. I
All
think we're
right.
okay with that.
Okay, so if we stayed what was not clear is how long I stayed there, but we went from the health center to,
After you left the health center, you went to Jackson State,
we went to Jackson State.
and you stayed at Jackson State. How many years?
4 years.
4 years.
I think that's all I can remember, 4 years. And then from Jackson State,
4 years. And when you left Jackson State, you went to?
I went to the University of Mississippi Medical Center,
Oh,
Department of Family Medicine for 2 years.
Mississippi.
I forgot all about that,
For how many years?
for 2 years.
2 years. And that was Dr. Shirley's program?
That was the fellow from Hollandale's program,
Edgar Smith.
Edgar Smith. Well, you're right. All of that came under Dr. Shirley's community medicine program.
Edgar Smith and Dr. Shirley.
Mhm. Forgot all about that. And then from there, when I left there,
Shirley. All right.
I went to Jackson State.
After you left the medical center,
Mm-hmm.
you went to Jackson State?
Mm-hmm. I think so. Doesn't sound right?
I think you went to Valley. After you left Edgar and Aaron Shirley,
I went to
right?
Valley.
You went to
Okay.
Valley.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. And
To
okay.
MVSU. And you stayed at MVSU for 2 years or 3?
2 years, let me just count it up.
Well, in '99, you were at Jackson State, because you preceded me. I got to Jackson. I got to the medical mall in '99, and you were already there working for Aaron Shirley and Edgar Smith, okay?
Okay.
So that would have to be '99, probably '97, '98, and '99, and you left there about 2000, maybe 2001 or 2002, and went up to Valley?
If you were there 3 years, it must have been, because this is 2006. So if we count back, 5, 4, 6, 5, 4.
You should have gone to Valley about 2001 or 2002.
Probably.
And you stayed at Valley for how many years?
God,
3 years?
none of them were 3 years, because I was there with Kathy. Remember her, Kathy Golden?
Well, I heard of her. I never met her, no. And
Really,
then,
come to think of it, she was only there a year, I think a year after I got there, and she went to something else.
and what department of Via Valley? You went to social work?
No, I
What?
went to the culture,
Oh, yeah, that program
mhm,
that I originated,
right.
at
And-
least conceptually. I never got no credit for it.
And I gave him a copy of paper,
You did?
because that's what you did at MIT.
That's
That
what
was
I
your
did.
paper.
You gave him a copy of that?
Yeah.
Oh, then you're the fellow.
I want you to know that.
Oh, I wondered how they got that.
I wanted them to know that they didn't come up with nothing new.
Oh, did you do that, Al, really?
Yeah.
Oh, where'd you get it from?
You gave me a copy.
I did.
Yeah.
Oh, my Lord. Did you ever get it back?
Oh, I didn't give them the copy. I gave them a copy of the copy.
Oh, but you still have it?
Yeah.
When you have time, give it back to me, because I can't find a copy of
Oh, okay.
it. Okay. All right, so you stayed at Valley until the
Till June of this year.
Cultural Center,
And social work.
June,
Because I had an appointment in social work. in June.
June of, yes, because you had an appointment in social work after you did the Cultural Center thing.
Right.
Right.
But well, you always had it, because you had an assignment with the cultural center thing, but your
Yeah.
appointment was in social work, because
The
they had to
appointment
put
was
your
in
appointment
social.
where your degree is.
Okay.
And so my appointment was in social work.
And you
they was-
officially
they was
retired
paying
there in June of this year?
June of this year.
June of 2006. Well,
And I'll get you the dates, because we got dates on the resume at the house. I didn't even
Alright.
think about that. That would have helped me remember this stuff.
now I need to, let's see.
You should have it. You probably have it in your records too.
All right. All the years you spent in the Mississippi Delta in extreme poverty. Education was important. These are your words.
It was.
Education matters, and that's what you were taught.
That's right.
Your regret is having 6 careers. You had 6 careers, all of which have been rewarding in their way. The models have been valuable in time spent, and you're the only person who was able to get rid of the deficit at Mount Bob. You did that at the health center. Black people were, unfortunately, your enemies in that part of your experience, and they got rid of you. And they got rid of you at Jackson State the same kind of way. And is it true that you regret leaving the health center in Mount Bayou?
I regret it.
Speak on that, because you did say that.
Yeah, I regret, because I kept, I think what I mixed up, and I don't know that while I understand it intellectually, I don't know that I would be any better in practice. What I mixed up with doing a job was having people like you on the job. I mean, that was important to me, to be able to be liked, to be respected, to understand that we was all on the same team. And I think my lack of experience in a corporate setting and with corporate leaders, left that as a void in what you need to develop the kind of thick skin you need to do a job.
Mhm.
You remember when I went to the health center, for a while, almost every week I was being sued by somebody in terms of.
Hold it.
And almost every week I was being sued at the health center by somebody who was challenging how the work would be done, or whether they would work, or whether or not they would be concerned about patient care and everything. And it was very clear to me that this was a new area that nobody else who directed the health center had been in. And it was, I felt at the time, part of the history of Mount Bayou, which, with its preference for the elitism, which had been the dominant behavior practice in the history, throughout the history of Mount Bayou. At different times they had that thing going on. And I never really was able, somebody said this to me who had been an observer, I was never able to really win over the hearts of the people in Mount Bayou.
Let me say, make a couple of observations about you, Al, because I've known you for 42 or 43 years, I'm not sure.
A long time.
But a long time. You were unique, you were one of the people that grew up in the movement and had first a career of activism in the movement.
Mm-hmm.
And then you graduated, if I may use that phraseology,
Mm-hmm.
you graduated to a professional career,
Mm-hmm.
which remained movement related.
Right.
Okay? Now, I can, in retrospect, talk about the fact of my lack of acceptance because I was never looked on as having had a professional career here in Mississippi.
Right.
I remember people coming up to me and saying, when are you going to get a real job? All right? And they did that to me.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
You had the credentials at a point in time, and you got all of that experience and job experience and then job-related experience, right, in Mississippi.
Right.
And you got all that training in Mississippi.
Right.
But you were one of a kind that kind of retained you were always able to retain your feeling for people, okay? And because that's how you started out. You got out there, representing the interests, right, of people, poor people, people per se. That, you did. And then after you acquired some training, you still went back to help people in a professional kind of way, okay?
And I think you put in context what I think when you look at the deficits of what I've been able to do. For instance, not being able to be elected to the school board in Shelby, Mississippi, when I ran for the school board. I think the one thing that you just put your finger on, and you did it very well, is that I got all of the stuff that one would need to do, but I kept coming back to the place that I had grown up in, that has shaped me, and has shaped my values and everything. And also was the place where people knew who I was, knew that history. I remember this man being very angry at me at one job I was in, where I was a supervisor, and he was saying, she better get back. It wasn't a man, it was a woman. Really,
She better get back
from
right.
Cleveland, Mississippi. She needed to get back out there and pick some cotton.
Oh, gee.
So I really think that two things kept me from being more successful in some of the positions. One, that everybody knew from whence I came. And there were people who were angry that somehow I had managed to climb some kind of ladder and was in a position that normally had been reserved for people of a different class. In other words, what you just said helped me to understand that I never really moved beyond the structure of the class into which I was born. The education and stuff simply helped me function in these other
No, in a
classes.
sense you did, but in another sense you did, because you distinctly, over the last 45 years, wore a hat as an organizer, then you wore a hat as a leader, then you wore a hat as a teacher, okay, and then you wore a hat as a scholar, okay?
But you
So
never,
those hats,
but you never became a member of what was perceived to be in Mount Bayer, in the Delta, in Mississippi, the ruling class.
No,
Not
no,
in
never.
Jackson,
No,
not
no.
in Greenville, not in Bolivar County.
no, but those were hats that you wore were distinct kinds of careers that you walked through
Right.
through the last 45 years. I think we have a couple of things in common. One is, as a movement people, we sought public office and never won public
That's right,
office.
that's right.
And there were distinct reasons why. And I was told at an early time in my experience here in Mississippi, Brooks, don't ever run for office. They told me that. They told me that in Greenville, right? Over a considerable number of years. And I ran 3 times in Washington County and was never successful in winning public office. And I was told that I wouldn't, because you are not the kind of person, right, that people want in an office, right? And in fact, maybe maybe you do the most good, not as an elected official, because that compartmentalizes you, right? And restricts your movement, and actually restricts to a large degree what you can say
Exactly.
on behalf of people.
And see, I don't think those kind of considerations were given to me. I think it was the unforgiving, and I really think I heard you say something to this effect once when we were talking. It was the unforgiving spirit of the few middle-class people who became the objects of some of my efforts to organize. You know, when you hold them up as examples of people who are middle class and who are only concerned about supporting the people that keep them in high places, you know,
Yeah.
principals of the school and teachers in the school system and stuff like that. I think that was one of the things that I didn't do well that really created enemies for me. And when I really realized how serious it was, when I ran for the school board, and people who were middle class by income and not necessarily by education were really campaigning among themselves and making sure that they got the word out not to vote for LC.
Yeah.
Because LC represented a threat to the school. She'll have black power studies up in the school and all kinds of stuff. And really, in fact, I had gone to the school board, and you remember this, I had gone to the school board and said we need to have a black studies program off the summer. I found a teacher who can teach it, and here's the curriculum. And they said, okay. And it was not the white folks who was upset about me having black studies in the school. It wasn't the teachers who was upset about me offering black studies classes. It was the parents.
It was the parents.
It was the parents. It was the middle class parents more than the poor working class parents, which I was a member of their class and who they saw and had fewer problems with. It was the people who was up the economic ladder, who resented and who felt threatened by what they perceived as power and what I saw as responsibility.
Yeah.
When you go to the school board and they say, we want to have this, and they say, well, you have to teach it. And you go in and say, okay, I'll teach it.
Now, I always close an interview, L, and I'm getting ready to close this one, but I always close an interview by asking the person that I'm interviewing, help me understand what you attribute as the most important gains in Mississippi and in your lifetime, right? Since you have been since your period of involvement. What has been most important in terms of successes, and where do you think we fell flat on our face in the movement? Because I feel strongly that we did in certain areas.
Well, I think the most important gain that we made in the movement was to change the face of the elected officials in the state at all levels, state, county, and local. I grew up in a Mississippi that had no black elected officials. Born in 1938 in Washington County and spent most of my, the first 30 years of my life in 4 Delta counties, Washington, LaFleur, Sunflower, and Bolivar. It is amazing to be able to see the number and to have the largest number of black elected officials in the country, in our state, and to see them represented and operating competently at every level. To me, that is the most significant contribution that I have been involved in the state. I don't want to undercut the need for people to have access to health care, which I've been involved in, or to work with Unita Blackwell and other folks in trying to make sure people have housing, or to try to look at developing an alternative economic area for people, as I did with the cooperative effort in the state that McKnight has made famous around the world. But to be able to have black people as judges, to be able to have black people elected to make the laws in the state, to have black people at the city level, to have at the county level, to run the major institutions, to set policy, I think that's the most significant thing that had come out of the civil rights movement. And I think the people in Mississippi have worked diligently to make these achievements following the pattern laid down by one of the greatest civil rights leaders, Martin Luther King. We've accomplished all of this through organizing and education without a war, without a civil war in our local counties and communities of the state.
All right, Mr. Dorsey. And has the election of black elected officials to public office in Mississippi, has that been the greatest reason there has been an improvement in the quality of life of all Mississippians, if there has been? Is that the reason?
I don't think that is the only reason, but I think the fact that we have laws that have been passed by Congress that curtail some of the violence and unfairness of people and hold local law enforcement accountable has made a big difference. But the education of local people about their rights, how to secure their rights, how to work together to empower people, and how, most importantly, to elect members from their community that understand the need for good representation has been the most important thing, I think, that this project has resulted in for us.
All right, Ms. Dorsey, I thank you very much for your time. It's been a very exciting interview for me, and I've come to know a little bit more about you, and I've known you 40-some odd years. But, you know, every time we sit down and have some time with each other, I benefit, and I learn something. So I thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you, Mr. Brooks. I want you to know across these 40 years of friendship, you've been a great teacher.
Oh, oh, you're forgiven. For that, you're forgiven.
Oh, and you really have been a great teacher.
Hell, you're forgiven for that.
You know, he really bought me my first prom dress.
Oh, my
We
goodness.
wound up being sponsors for the kids who were boycotting the school in Shelby, Mississippi.
You remember that? Oh, my goodness. Yeah. Oh, Lord. I don't think you ever told me that.
I remember, you remember you loaned me $40 and I went and bought a little yellow lace dress.
Did I do
And
that?
we were chaperones for the kids who had their prom because they'd been kicked out of school by the
Jeez,
school board.
God.
And we had it in
What a
Winstonville,
memory.
Mississippi. Had it in Winstonville, Mississippi at the Halloween.
What a
No
memory.
fights, no
Oh, I
cars
remember
messed up,
that.
No nothing. I know you do.
Dorsey, yes,
we were
Lord.
the people there making sure everything went well.
I
I'd never been
I
to a
remember
prom.
that. Lord have
Never been
mercy.
to a prom. Had never been to a prom in my life. It didn't even dawn on me until after it was all over. The Lord don't let you miss nothing He intended you to enjoy.
See,
I remember Owen telling me that. He said, I didn't even go to my own prom.
that's true. Now, that is the truth.
You told me that.
That is
You
true.
told me that.
Had never been to a prom in my life.
And I remember in the middle of it, I know you don't remember this, I was married to a guy who was an alcoholic, Owen Well. In the middle of this, he wouldn't go with us because I invited him. No, he wouldn't go. But in the middle of it, he went and got a carload of his buddies and cousins and folk, and they crashed the prom.
Listen to him.
They did.
Listen to
He
him.
had to come and see what we were doing. He was so shocked to find we were sitting there doing absolutely nothing.
Oh, my Lord. Yes, Lord have mercy. Well, thank you, Al.
And thank you, Mr. Brooks.
It was really a pleasure.
It's been my pleasure too. It really, this is a wonderful service you're making for this institution. I hope they really appreciate what you're doing.
Well, they don't, but that's all right. I say that with no compunction at all. They don't.
They don't understand.
No, they ain't got a clue.
I think it's really
What?
good because this may be the only time and place that we see this.
I do it because it needs to be done.
I just would say nobody has ever asked me about all of those things, and really, even when I knew that's what you were doing, I hadn't thought about what I need to think about. Because you ask a different set of questions than other people.
See, but I'm able to ask those questions.
Well,
I'm
you
one of the
are,
few
because-
people that can ask you some of those questions.
Yeah.
They don't know what I know.
That's right. Well, you also have a unique perspective because a lot of the people are looking at it from just a historical content. You looking at it from an activist point of view who is serving as a historian. That's a different issue.
My Lord.
Different issue.
Well, thank you, Al.
And thank you.